to Up for Discussion.
I'm pretty sure. Alright, we're rolling. Yep, that's it. We got 5 minutes until it's live. Well, it's live right now, but 5 minutes until it's countdown. Sure. Okay.
Point to it. Where do you want me?
Just be right here.
How hard is it setting this up?
It wasn't too bad. I'd watch a lot of videos.
You know, the technical build what we do. And like people that want to get into your industry, I think that's the way to do it. Like if someone wanted a job in it, a job in it, you want to say to you, so many people want to make YouTube content. Is that?
Yes, there are.
One thing about it is that all these, everything connects to itself and it connects to all the platforms. So you got to make sure that you stay on top of all of it.
How close is this guy to the fellow on the video? I'm not in here. Like for a moment.
Get a tendency, a lot of guys start studying this and if you're listed below that decimals start to disappear on the boards.
I bet it's fun talking about deer. It's one of those things I've been addicted to for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know how to ever get up from the place talking about deer.
No.
Yeah, just do all four.
Feeling the walk most.
next.
All right. I think we're live and rolling this evening. Checking all of our camera angles, making sure we're good. If you guys wouldn't mind, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. And I think we're good, aren't we? Yeah. All right. This is.
We've started several times and get
I've gotten better about it,
Yeah,
though. I've
yeah.
figured it out. So,
learning it, but we've
yeah.
got 3 minutes in before people are like, we can't hear you.
Yeah. So this evening we are on episode 57. I called this episode, Can We Come Back From This? And basically what we're talking about is we're going to be discussing Tim Wells' recent post. And also, I wanted to throw this out there, also discuss the recent numbers that Illinois released and what those look like in relation to, what it's looking like in regards to our herd and how certain things are affecting it.
The deer herd.
Yeah, the herd. This evening, we've got special guest, Clint Harvey. And Clint, you've been hunting for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I've been born tracking deer,
Yeah.
hunting deer, and in the, looking for deer with my parents. And, I've got a group of friends that I hunt with, and
Yeah.
we have a good time with it.
Yeah. And I know that Clint has some unique thoughts in regards to deer hunting. And because of that, I thought he'd be a great person to have on for this evening. So this evening's podcast is sponsored by Ultra Products here in Fairfield, Illinois. We're a full-service bow shop specializing in all your bow hunting needs. We carry Matthews, Darton, Bowtech, PSE, Elite, Bear, and Bowtech. Did I already say
I
Bowtech?
said Bowtech.
Well, Bowtech gets a double dose.
It's a double dose. Double dip for Bowtech.
That's right. So if you guys get a chance, stop in and see us this weekend. We've got a bow shoot that is an ASA qualifier for the state of Illinois. So if you guys get a chance, you ought to stop in and shoot it. It'll be a great time had by all. Saturday and Sunday. Starts at 8 a.m. and on Saturday will end at 4. You need to start the course by 4. And on Sunday, you need to start it by noon. It'll end at 2. So, yep. All right.
And the thunder roll.
That's right. We've got some thunder rolling. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Clint, let me ask you this. When you read the post by Tim Wells, what were your thoughts initially?
I've heard this 100 times. I mean,
Yeah.
It's the same opinions that I've been part of a couple of different groups to manage the whitetail herd better. I had the Illinois Bowhunter Society. It was up in, I don't know, probably 20 years ago. And then they came up with the Illinois Whitetail Alliance a few years ago. It was basically the same bunch of guys. And, if you wanted the deer herd managed better, you owe them a lot of thanks for trying.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I agree with him in a lot of ways, but I don't see the doe herd being down at all.
I don't think the doe numbers are down.
But
You think
he's
that
also
could
up
be-
north.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, you think that could be relegated to a
Mhm.
different area of the state.
What I've realized is, from listening to people back when those groups were around, there were complete opposite opinions everywhere.
Right.
One guy would want this, one guy would want that, one guy would want herd and buck, one guy would want does protected. And it was all, there's a lot of, I would say, disagreement / argument within it. And it was really a matter of perspective, where they were at and what their problems
Right.
were. Like, we have a difficult time understanding what it's like to have sharpshooters in the woods next to us down here because we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But you hear that so often on deer management with the Illinois sharpshooters up north and the chronic waste disease. And, when you look into the chronic waste disease and you get some research down on it, you realize that this cannot be managed by humans. It just simply can't. When you look at what a prion is, they don't know if it's living, they don't know if it's dead. If you can stay in the soil for 10 years and still be able to contaminate a deer, you've seen the struggles that we had when COVID was around with science trying to manage that. Can you imagine
Sure.
trying to manage something and you don't know if it's alive or dead?
Do
In the
you
wild,
think?
even,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Do
Lives in
you
the
You
dirt.
can't ask the deer how he's feeling.
No.
So, do you feel like CWD and EHD, which do you feel like is a worse problem for us as a state?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. They're totally different diseases. EHD is, a lot of people call it, you got it because you got too many does. It's not population density dependent disease.
Yeah.
So it doesn't travel from deer to deer. It's kind of like if
Sure.
COVID COVID traveled from person to person. EHD doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It is from a midge flying up their nose and biting. More chronic waste disease does go from deer to deer, so it is population dependent. Gosh, with or without the state's interference is the question. If you've got to deal with the sharpshooters coming in with chronic waste, that's a bigger problem.
I feel like that's a bigger problem than the chronic waste.
Right, because if you kill off all the deer, what are you really helping?
Yeah,
like you've got dead deer's a dead deer.
anything.
Dead deer are dead deer, and the ground that the dead deer are on and have been on is still contaminated for 10 years.
So I guess their theory is with the sharpshooters, because there's going to be a whole ton of people that don't know nothing about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole theory is kind of like with the firefighters dripping fire to burn a fire line to stop fire.
Right.
Fighting fire with
Mm-hmm.
fire.
Yeah.
I guess, so I always, try to look at things from every side of the,
Mm-hmm.
of the circle to not play advocate of the enemy or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Because I want to be
Sure.
open-minded to some
Right.
degree. So but their theory, I'm guessing, and you may go speak to it, is if we can kill so many here and get that stop from crossing. But then when you really think about it, there's no way. It just takes one
Right.
to cross that line and get to these other deer, and then it spreads. So you're saying a dead deer is a dead deer.
If you kill them all off, it doesn't matter if you killed them or the disease. And I do
Right.
understand the fire thing,
Yeah.
but you talked about your little circle earlier. How would you like your circle to be there
Yeah.
with 3 DNR
Right.
sharp meters on both sides of it?
Yeah. Like it now.
And I understand their problem. I do understand what the DNR is trying to do in theory, but I don't know. Those are their concerns.
Here's the next thing. If they don't know seriously, like they don't know if that's alive or dead or whatever that causes CWD,
Mm-hmm.
do they know for sure that deer can't overcome it and live?
Well, there is a percentage that can.
There's a percentage that can, and I hear it doesn't kill them all. They usually die by something else, is what I have heard. Now, the research I had done talked about the living and dead, but this is, other things that I have heard that may not be scientifically based. I don't know, but they say that they can overcome it. They say they usually die from something else, and I've heard other people say no, it's terribly bad. I've heard other people say that only about 20% of the population usually gets it. And then I've heard, no, it can go up into the 50s and it can be really bad. So
the reading I've done says that they can live 2 to 3 years
Right.
with it before anything ever kills them.
right.
So, to me, I don't know.
If you shoot a nice 3-year-old as a sharpshooter and he was going to live another 3.5 or 4 years, you took out a deer that we were going to enjoy hunting.
Yeah,
2 years
as a mature buck,
as a mature deer.
Yeah,
potentially.
and there's all kind. The work that some people put into hunting, and possibly the money spent on buying a piece of ground and then have something like that happen to your property.
That would be devastating.
I've got good friends that say they wouldn't call the DNR if they found a deer that they thought may have been chronic waste on their property, just because they don't want to deal with that.
They don't want them to fly in helicopters and start whacking and stacking.
Right. Right.
I think one of the questions that we've got to ask ourselves is, why does the DNR exist? Does it exist for purposes of money? Does it exist for the pure procuration or the procuring of the animal? Or does it exist for the hunters? Because somewhere in there, there's something that is, the wires are crossed. It sure seems as though.
It's the Department of Natural Resources, right?
That's what they say.
That's classic. That was a classic answer. But so first of all, you just look at it from the name, the Department of Natural Resources. But what does the Department of Natural Resources
it's supposed to be with conservation in
in
mind.
mind?
Yeah.
To take care and manage, ultimately somewhat manage, right? Is what you think you would want them to do.
Right.
or what they should be after.
Right.
Clint, your face is hilarious,
Right.
man.
Well, speak to that. I mean, what you don't say nothing you don't want to say.
I'm going to say everything I want to say.
Okay. Because I guess I would look at you and be like, "What's your thoughts on the DNR?" Because I don't do deep
You ever
dives.
see they put data in a computer and the same thing just keeps coming out? Like, it doesn't matter what happens to the Illinois deer herd, and they keep doing the exact same thing. Like
Same thing.
2012, like when we lost all the age structure in the buck herd, we lost a bunch of does.
Yeah,
We lost practically everything. Hunting went to the toilet.
right. I remember that.
And what did the DNR do?
All the same.
The same thing they always said: I will sell you a tag, give me your money, and bring it back.
Yeah.
And anytime you're thinking about possible solutions for the DNR, you've always got to think, is the state of Illinois going to actually do that? Like, are they going to tell people, no, we don't want all of your money, we're going to a $1 limit?
Yeah.
Right? Is the state of Illinois going to do that?
Give me just 1 second.
They haven't shown any signs of doing that, have they?
In my opinion, the last thing done that would possibly help the age structure that Illinois deer herd was done in 1998,
Is that the $2?
the $2 limit.
That's me and Wes talked about this before. I said the biggest thing I've ever seen as a hunter, because I started hunting in the 6th grade archery. And part of why I didn't see mature bucks, probably before that, was twofold. One, I was a kid, and I either didn't stay out there long enough or just a lack of know-how. But even in 98, I'm still pretty much a kid, just graduating high school. I told him when the $2 rule came about, limit, when that was implemented, I said within 3 to 4 years, I was like, oh my goodness, I seen the difference. I seen that I was like, there's nicer deer all over the place.
Right.
And then it was because before then, we could go back and buy another buck tag, either sex tag. So guys were shooting deer, and I know what it did to me, because I was even as a young person, that didn't have the restraint to let a 3-year-old go. I still had the frame of mind. I got to watch. I want to be able to hunt for the best 2 deer I can find, whatever they was. I'm going to hunt the best 2 deer. So I remember all of a sudden now, there was deer getting the pass, even though I wanted to shoot them. There was deer getting the pass because I only got 2 tags now.
Yeah.
And within 3.5 to 4 years, which is the year, like that 4-year mark when they start turning into mature deer. Within that time of span, all of a sudden I was like, now I'm going to the woods, and there's good bucks, like 3.5-year-olds everywhere, and I'm seeing more mature bucks. That's the biggest thing in the 30 years. Plus, given minus what I've been, how long were you in the 6th grade? I was trying to keep it in my head how long I've hunted. But anyway, in all those years, that's the biggest thing I've personally seen that changed mature animals for us.
But have they done anything else?
Well, I guess not.
That's where I'm
Nothing's
at.
changed. And I think I told him, I said, I would be okay with some people's like, turn it back to $1. Well, I think you could leave it at $2 and still have really good numbers if some other things were probably attended to.
What other things would those be?
I think the lack of, what's the word? The lack of accountability with the whole just calling in deer. I mean, we just briefly discussed this, me and him, before. I mean, I just know that there's people that if they arrow the wrong animal, and it happens all the time, anybody sitting at this table would be pretty honest to say sometime in their life you've shot a deer that's like, man, that just wasn't the deer that I thought it was.
Yep, me. I shot one of them one time.
Yeah.
Thought he was the 150 and he was the 128, and I was done hunting on October 6th.
Yeah. So I mean, it's happened to everybody, but there's a lot of people with a lack of accountability because it's like, don't have to take it to a check station to get it legal.
But if you don't have to call it in, do you have to take it to the check station?
What's that?
If you don't have to call it in, do you have to take it to the check station?
No, but there's some stigmatism there that it makes it easier for people.
You think?
I think so.
I do think it makes it easier
I
for
think-
guys to cheat the system.
I think it does. Obviously there was people cheating way before that became a thing.
Sure.
But
Do you think there's enough people cheating on that end of it to
affect the whole
Right.
herd?
I don't know that. I can't
I think
speak
the
to that for
largest
sure.
majority of, and when I say this, I know I'm going to get some feedback for sure, but the largest majority of what I feel like is the problem is crossbows.
That was going to be my second thing.
crossbows with a step too far that we'll never get back?
Yeah.
Well,
my second thing, and
I
like
think
I said,
they should have
people
been
can-
handled different.
people can hate on us all they want, and I'm not against you if you hunt with a crossbow. I'm not against you from the stance of, I understand everybody wants to go hunting,
Sure.
but there's a reason that we don't have a month long of gun season, which they've transitioned to rifle season now. That used to be big slow slugs that didn't reach out
Let's
as far.
take this all the way back to 98 when that last thing was done, right?
One
Look-
person did say they were having a hard time hearing you, so try and
Okay.
Maybe
push
turn
up
that
into
thing
that,
towards
yeah.
you. Yeah.
I mean, let's look at 98, what equipment was like, right? Like, and I did a poll with my buddies and a few other people, and like, how many people had slugs or had scopes on their guns? How many people had, look at trail cameras. I mean, the trail camera back then was a string you tie across the trail to
Yeah.
figure out what time a bird landed on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
things were very rudimentary. That's for sure.
Very. Now, if you look at the, I think the compound bow has came the least distance. I mean, if
I think so. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I just talked to a guy today that was shooting what was it?
They said a golden eagle for a while.
No, but after when you left, Les Klein come in and he had a Darton something with an overdraw that shot 311 back in the day. I mean, that's crazy fast today,
Mhm.
So they had the ability to go fast and shoot flat arrows and speed
Yeah.
back then.
they're
So
friendlier now and more fun.
friendly,
in my
friendly,
opinion.
more
yes.
easier drawing bows, more manageable, less noise. All that stuff has
Mhm.
come a long ways. I'm not saying they haven't come a
Mhm.
ways, but as far as just the ability, lethality
Mhm.
was there then too.
But if you
Yeah.
go to the top end, like I was talking to Jared Vaughn, and he's a ranked Midwest like sharpshooter, goes to sniper classes and all that. I asked him, if you had to stay within the legal parameters, what could you do with a modern gun? And he said 400 yards. He said he's had friends kill him with 400 yards of modern guns that you could legally use during gun season.
Hmm.
I asked friends, I
The
said,
stuff that they've just recently made legal, you're saying
if you're a gunner,
if you're into it and you work your system out,
right.
you can be lethal out to 400
Right.
yards. I know that to be true. I believe that.
And I asked my friends, I said, so what percentage of the people in 1998 were lethal at 100 yards? I mean, on purpose with a gun?
Not many.
Not many. The best I got was about 20%.
Yeah.
Because a
'Cause,
lot
I
of
mean-
people shooting rifled sights, beads on grandpa's shotgun, smooth bore,
Yeah.
pumpkins going down them, and all of that. Does anybody out there now not have a 100-yard gun?
Right. Because in 98, I think you're right. If you lined up 10 people that were slug gun hunters, what we've always called shotgun season, which it's not now. But when you lined up those 10, I'm going to say 2 of them, maybe one, had an H&R. He was shooting higher quality ammo like sabos and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and had a good scope on his H&R. They had the H&R had the 12 gauge with the 10 gauge barrel, so essentially it was a bull. They could do some pretty lethal shooting out to 120 and 150 probably, and probably could kill further than that, but really lethal out to 120. But when you line those up, there's just 1 or 2 of them. The rest of them was like, yep, tomorrow's gun season. I got to put a little spot of white fingernail polish on the bead so I can see it in low light tomorrow
Right.
morning.
Right. And it was a hard sighting system. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the most important thing on whatever it is, bow, crossbow, gun, is your sighting system.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult sighting system
Right.
for precision aiming.
So they've ramped that up and made people more lethal, I guess, you know.
Well,
I think everyone is currently more lethal
Way.
than what they could have been.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Even the compound, the speed and stuff like that maybe hasn't changed much, but the sights and the components on the bow has made us more dangerous as far as lethal hunters.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the speed has kind of changed because what you're shooting, the projectile is massively lighter now, so you can reach out further than what you could have then.
Flatter further,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like they may have been shooting the same speeds from 5 feet, but by the time you get out there a ways, we shoot way flatter.
Maybe. I mean, to me, 311's 311 to some degree.
Yeah, but 311
because you have to
with an aluminum arrow is not the it's not the
but
same
only
as with a
reason
carbon
the
arrow.
only reason they got 311 is because they shaved enough weight off of that aluminum arrow to get it there.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand where you're going with it.
I mean, and if aluminum, if they got 311 with 70 more grains of aluminum, then by physics it would even do better out there at certain ranges.
Yeah,
if they got that same speed.
I just know maybe it's more mindsets, but I don't think we see or we saw near as many guys shooting at distances like they do now.
No, because all the YouTubers and the whatevers have posted their videos and kills at 50 and 60 yards, so it drives people to want to do that.
I mean, I remember the first time that we shot one at 60 yards, we had guys that were like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, that, you know, that may be their opinion and that's fine, but it's one thing to say that if you're not capable of that. It's another thing if you shoot regularly and I don't know. That's really a side note.
Did you quit?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I've not quit at this point, so I'm not going to.
It does no good. It does no good to ridicule anyone with your ethics, and they're not going to change what they're doing just because you say they're a bad person for it. I mean,
well, and yeah, but my question here is, what do we do with the information that you guys have said? What do we do moving forward to create a scenario where it's better? Because there's got to be a resolution to it.
Well, I mean, you'd have to go to a 1 buck, right? You'd have to make it to where the crossbows, which are a higher lethal rate as far as what they can kill, you'd have to turn that back. You'd have to go back to beads and smoothbore Foster slugs. Well, I mean, maybe the industry has made us too lethal, and then with the cooperation of the state, not turning back or.
I mean, can we guarantee anything is wrong? I mean, it is from our perspective, but what about that 16-year-old kid who wants to shoot 130s to 145s?
Then he's happy.
And those are everywhere. I am too. Those are everywhere right now.
Yeah, they're out there.
You know, for the last 2 years, I'm spoiled, and I can't find a 5-year-old buck. Like, I've got plenty of places to hunt. I'm hunting behind posted signs. I can't find a 5-year-old buck.
But here's the thing. That cannot be entirely because of other people, I feel like. It's got to be other scenarios. You think it's entirely because of people?
I don't think entirely. And even because of people, like if you want to look at those changes since 98, like did anyone know how to hunt in 1998 compared to now either? Like there's some good things that's happened in those 26, 27 years. Like I sat on a trail, Dad was known for being a pretty good hunter. I sat on 2 trails that crossed thinking a deer's going to come down one of these at any time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how most people hunted back then,
Sure.
right? There was no thought of access. And maybe a little bit. Grandpa always told me about wind direction, so
Yeah.
let's kind of think of that a little bit.
I agree with that. We've become better hunters,
Right.
But all that being said, a lot of states around us still have mature deer.
I mean, Iowa makes changes all the time to have mature deer. Kentucky has some $1 limit type stuff going on and more regionalized management. The last I looked into it, I haven't looked into it in a while.
I think part of it is we need better management. And I think part of it is like I saw several posts, even on what I posted on the Ultra Products page. There were several people that took issue with out-of-state hunters. To me, out-of-state hunters do not represent what we're seeing. And I say that based on the numbers that even just came out this week. Like 5% of the deer that were taken out of the herd came from out-of-state hunters. Well, that's pretty small numbers in relation, I feel like. And my question is, do the 33, it ended up equating to $33,000, I think it was, that were killed by out-of-state hunters across the entire state. Do we sacrifice those? Do we sacrifice the money that comes into our communities and into the state for those $33,000, which is 5%? I don't know. I'm asking your opinion because
I am for out-of-state hunters to be treated like out-of-state hunters in a lot of other whitetail areas. Thank you. We hope you had a good time. We'll see you in 5 years.
Yeah.
Not, oh, did you have a good time? If you want to, come up here and start your own outfitter business, lease up a bunch of ground, and then, bring all your buddies up here.
Yeah.
And so forth. Now, with that said, I've got some great out-of-state hunters that I have met in my life. Like, I don't want to come across as anybody that doesn't like, and I've went to Canada to hunt, and I may leave the state to hunt again. And I don't have a problem with any humans, like, style of hunting, way of hunting, going from one state to the other. They've got the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have no problem with anyone using a crossbow. There's lots of people that'll bash that. No problem whatsoever. It's not up to them to make all the decisions and write that ethical book.
I don't really either.
But all those things do come down to regulation.
Right. And it's up to the state to care.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what this whole discussion is about. Does the state care enough to do something about it?
No,
so tell me, I want to ask a question. You said you can't find a 5.5-year-old buck on the particular parcels that you're hunting.
Right.
So what is your answer why they're not there?
Because when my 4-year-old that I've been watching all year all of a sudden vanishes over and over and over again. Like, I have not hunted 170-inch 3-year-olds to get them another year because I was pretty certain that they would make it by what they're doing. Now they don't come back. Like, at some point in the year, the deer will vanish and not come back. And it never used to be that way.
So why do you think that is?
Because hunters are more lethal.
So you think that they were leaving anyways?
I also think that illegal hunters are more lethal too.
I agree with that.
Well, sure. They could put a thermal on these hot 420, 450 feet per second crossbows and be silent and deadly.
Yeah.
Right.
And everybody knows a 5-year-old buck will give you the opportunity.
He'll stand in the headlights.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, with his doe and not leave. And if you're, who even needs headlights?
Yeah.
I mean, I think EHD's part of it too. I mean, I think we get a little whack of that every year. I know Todd Hewing up at around Newton, he said that he had a lot of his farms destroyed with it this year. A small, township type size thing. And,
I every year, it seems like every year for the last 10 or 12 to me, I talk or see someone or talk to a farmer that finds big mature deer and they're out when they're combining beings. You can tell he died with his velvet on when you look at the rack.
Sure.
Maybe the velvet's rotted off, but his purling's still sharper than a razor and it's not been rubbed on trees. He died with his velvet on. I've got a big 9-pointer that I found that died with his velvet on, it's obvious, you know.
Mhm.
So I mean, for the last 10 or 12 years, that has been a thing, and I'm sure it affects all deer, but why does it seem like you find a lot of big mature deer dead with it? Is it?
I have heard, and again, this isn't scientific. This was something I think Don Higgins said on a podcast, and I know it affected older age class deer more because it took the herd a while to come back, indicating that does were, younger does are doing most of the breeding, which
Right.
has a much lower rate of increase than the older does.
Yeah.
They're much less likely to have twins and triplets. But anyway, he says because their nostrils are bigger, making it easier for the flies to get up in their nose to bite them, as opposed to the smaller age class deer. I don't know. I don't know if it's something that he has heard. I don't know, but that's what I have heard. And, if you want to go back to 2011, like that was dreamland in Illinois. Like there was giant bucks everywhere. If I knew then what I know now,
what would you do? What would you do different?
I don't know. Probably just sit out in the woods and watch them.
Yeah.
It would have been a happy time. Like I was telling him earlier, I was watching a deer that was well over 200, and he had a herd of other ones, and I knew exactly where that deer lived in 2011, the year before, and then EHD hits and gone. I knew of 3 deer that lived through that. One, Jared Vaughn killed that was a super old buck. It was a big 7. Rob Trader's dad killed a big 10, and there was a shed that I found that I had the match to from the year before that had lived through it. And that's all that I knew that lived through it. That was older than 3.
That was mature, big
Right.
deer.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough one for sure.
So back to my question. So you believe a big reason why there's not as many mature deer is because they're just not getting the opportunity to live. They're leaving.
I mean, people are.
They're leaving the place where you're going to let them go, and somebody else is getting them.
Well, even on not even on our properties, right? Like it's any property you have. Like 140-inch deer when it comes by is a big deer.
That's a good buck.
Sure,
that's
right.
a good buck.
And
some
you
for
can't
me,
blame somebody for shooting that.
some for me, I'm going to shoot 140-inch deer because I'm trying to look at him and be like, he's 4+, Maybe
even if he's not
5.
4+, he still looks like a big deer to everyone that's not spoiled like myself. Like he still looks like a big deer when he comes by me.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I enjoy seeing those.
I told Wes this year a bunch because I didn't shoot a buck, but this year a bunch. I literally a couple of times held my.
I'll leave my bow on mine. I'll put it right back.
I held my hand out as they were coming in, literally as they were coming, and didn't look at the rack.
Right.
And made my decision based more on physical features.
Right.
Because I was like, man, that looks like a dandy, And then I was like, Lathan, calm yourself. Because I set myself 4.5 years old or older this year. And not even for sure going to shoot a 4.5-year-old if I'm like, it's a 4.5-year-old that could turn into a booner in the next year and a half.
One thing I've noticed on those is they look twice as big walking away.
Yeah. They turn around and walk away and you're like, I think I made a wrong decision. Yeah, I've done that. But there's several times, I kid you, someone was being like, what's he doing? The sun in his eyes? No, I was, as he was walking, holding my hand, looking at his physical features. And then I realized that deer's, when you take your eyes off the antlers, it's like that deer's not mature. He's not a 4.5-year-old buck. Some of them, I'm like,
that one I shot turned around and said, "Mother," whenever I shot him. So,
Mama. And it's a good buck.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those that I thought was
140-inch buck,
but it was not what I wanted though.
Yeah,
like I messed up. Like, and I think that there has to be some grace in that.
Sure.
Like,
I
because I did it, and I'm hoping somebody shows me some grace. So.
And there were several times I'm like, this is the one. I'd see one coming, and I can't complain. I had nice deer multiple times, but only 2 that I remember. 3. Spurlock killed that one. I was crawling up. That was a mature deer. I would have for sure shot him if I got him in range. But I was telling you about that big 8 that chased a doe in there, and I was around all day. And then I crawled up on 2 in some cornfields. But if things would have went different, for sure, they were mature deer. Were they 180? They weren't 180s. Now Spurlock's was in the 170s, I think. So he was a good buck. But anyway, just cover them antlers up.
So let me ask.
But I would give grace. I give you grace.
Oh, I appreciate
was with
it.
you. I was with you, and I was like, man, that whole scenario, you're 4 feet off the ground on the side of a willow tree.
Yeah.
We'd never been there, walked in there that day, and you get all excited and you turn around and in the weeds comes out, a 10-pointer like this.
Yeah.
I can't promise you that I wouldn't have whirled and shot. I can't
blame anybody for shooting a deer like that.
No, I can't promise you that I wouldn't whirl and shoot at that and then been like, oh, well, praise the Lord. He is what he is,
Well, let me ask you this. So if you laid down to sleep tonight, closed your eyes, and you woke up in the morning and you were the king of Illinois, what regulations would you change to
King
make
Harvey.
things better?
What's my security look like?
Let me raise that mic up just a little bit.
I said, what's my security look like? I mean,
Because there's got to be some
your
things
security,
that change.
like your security detail.
yes,
the
I
people
would
that
be the
protect
Secret
you
Service.
Because
when you make these proclamations.
That's right.
If you're dealing with anything, people aren't going to like what you do.
That's true.
And
That's
you've
true.
also got to look at this as like, is this total fantasy land? Like,
well,
I still
it
have to-
basically is, but
if I don't have to live with like those type of things, I mean, clearly tags are going to stay the same price. You're going to have non-resident limits. You're going to have a special season for a crossbow. You're going to have a 1 buck limit.
Yeah.
But doesn't this sound selfish? Like to try to force people
It
to
does.
manage deer the way that I do.
It's a catch.
You know what
it's
I mean?
It's a catch 22.
Like, and everybody doesn't have to hunt. Like, I mean, there's things that people would like in counties that are like completely overpopulated that they deem. There would be pretty much like a mail-in Post-it card that you put the date and the small, medium, large size of the doe on and check it off, and it's basically a free card. If it's overpopulated, let's fix it.
Yeah.
yeah, I like the idea of earning your buck tags. I do.
Earn a buck is
To me, at the very least,
What's that mean? Like you can't get a buck tag till you shoot a.
at the very least, comp them one, give them one over the counter. The second one you have to earn with a doe kill. That's my opinion. Like, because there's too many guys out there that aren't willing to take a deer that isn't a buck. Like, they're only there to shoot a buck.
right. I've never seen one of them.
You're not that guy.
No. I mean,
I went like 5 years without killing a doe.
here's what I mean. You remember when Ross Perot came out and he was talking
Yeah.
about a flat tax?
Ross Perot for president.
Remember that? I mean, of course, a billionaire is going to come out wanting a flat tax, right?
Sure.
But, and everyone likes that. He got more votes than any independent party. Well, when you dig into Earn a Buck, right? Earn a Buck works wonders if you've got a small state park that you're trying to thin down. Earn a Buck has been tried at some larger areas, and it's always been canceled because there has to be too many cutouts made.
But here's the thing. What you said there, I think, is valid. Tried. The state is not trying anything. They're not doing anything different.
Yeah, exactly. But
And if they are, the only thing they're doing different is making it worse. Like adding
Right.
crossbows for the entire archery season, that's making it worse. Adding, rifles to the shotgun season, that's making the problem worse. Like,
they always had rifles out there with the pistol loopholes that they always had. Let's be real. I mean, there's a lot of people kill a lot of big deer out there with a rifle.
Yeah. But I feel like there's not anything that's trying to work on behalf of the herd. And that's where, like,
We have to come down to the brass tacks. We're only talking about big trophy animals, like full maturity, 5.5, 6-year-old bucks.
Right.
we are.
When I say trying to make it better, trying to make things better, you're only talking about, that rascal there on the wall, that 6-year-old buck.
There's still probably not as many does as there were in 2012, though.
I don't have a doe issue.
There's more
most of the
does now, I
places.
think. than
In most of the places.
You
that
think
I
there's more
hunt.
does overall than there were?
I took that poll too.
Did you?
Yeah. There's more does now, most of them feel, than in 2014. Most of them feel that, I mean, even the herd data shows, the state's own herd data, 2008 was when it peaked ish. I mean, it could have been 6, could have been 7, but about 2008, they say it was already going down before EHD. I think the herd is also more pieced together. Like, I've got a piece of property that I own down at Golden Gate, and it's a 2-mile walk down into the bottoms from Golden Gate, and I get more house cats on camera than I do deer. So it's much more pieced up now than it used to be. I've also got another spot that I used to pass $3 to $5 a hunt pre-EHD. I ain't passed $3 to $5 there since.
Yeah.
And I love the spot.
Yeah.
There are some places that didn't catch up, but your hill ground, I think it's pretty decent. Like, there's no posted signs around my house, and I can see 20 deer a night back there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's deer.
Sorry.
That's all right.
There's deer there. There's deer. I don't struggle to see deer.
Mm-mm.
I don't struggle to see deer.
Of course I don't, but
Apparently Tim does, though.
in my hunting spots, I don't struggle to see deer, and we're all relatively hunting the same because we're all in Southern Illinois. So we might be able to go up, because Tim Wells would be central, wouldn't he?
He would
Central
be.
Illinois.
these are in
So
Springfield, I think.
you get up in Central Illinois, maybe there's big pockets up there where they're like, man, we're just not seeing the critters.
I mean,
that
this state is very diverse. And I
Yeah.
mean, if I was labeled king, I mean, we would clearly not just have north, south, and by county and this and that. I mean, you would have to do things a little different, because up there you don't have cover like you do down
No,
here.
no.
Sure.
Down here you don't have cover like you do in. I mean, we've really got two types of habitats here. Your hilly small woods, non-floodplain, and your bottoms ground.
Yeah.
And that's really, in my opinion, your two habitats. And I don't know. They have just small lost woods that they forgot to cut up in that area.
Yeah. You got west of
should there-
Jeff, and then you got south of Fairfield.
Should there be limits
Mhm.
on
You got hill ground and then,
outfitters?
Should there be outfitters?
Should there be limits on outfitters?
Like the number?
I don't know that they massively
Right.
hurt anything. If anything, they may help things because they just
Yeah.
tie up ground. that
I'm
you
not- I'm
can't
just
hunt.
asking.
I don't have a problem with outfitters whatsoever. I mean, they're providing a service. People use outfitters. I used an outfitter on my bear hunt in Canada. I mean, just because I do it, don't make it right. But, people, don't have time to come up here and do the scouting, and they're working. And, an outfitter's got a right to try to make a living in whatever thing he wants to do.
Sure.
So I don't see a problem with the outfitter thing at all.
Do you think because isn't there states that do like on bucks they do like has to have 4 points or on one side or something like? Have you heard any
Yeah.
laws like that? Do
Yeah,
you
I
think those have any validity to help you out?
I mean, a 2-year-old has 4 points on one side usually.
I've seen yearlings that had
Right.
4 points. So
Right. Not many
I've always
antler
thought
you've got out there.
Yeah, I thought there's a good chance that one doesn't really rocket. You think the one buck could rocket things back into perspective?
So
By
I-
his time.
Back to 2008, 2012, 13.
I'm going to throw
up to
something
12,
out
I mean.
there.
Maybe
Um,
2015.
I'm just pulling up some numbers just to look and see what they say. In 2012, archery hunting made up 34% of the overall kills. Firearms made up 54%. In 2024, archery made up 43%. Firearm made up 48%. So you can definitely see where the crossbows have
Yeah.
definitely changed things.
Do you see where the doe and buck during archery season is inverted, where more bucks are being killed than does now? And the thing is, the DNR should see this coming, right? And their whole management thing. I mean, you guys are talking about how Pennsylvania used to have big deer.
Yeah,
Yeah. And what appeared crossbows.
yeah.
So, most of them are coming here because their age structure's not where it needs to be.
Right.
As far as out-of-state hunters, there hasn't been a massive increase, even though sometimes we feel like there has. It shows that there's been a 1% overall, which doesn't seem like much.
I haven't noticed a whole lot more. I mean, the ones that are here are visible, and You know,
I think it's changed though in regards to what you're saying. There's far more that are coming here and leasing up portions of ground than what
Yeah.
there used to be.
Yeah, that I mean, in the last 8 to 10 years,
I think that's
That's-
increased.
the thing with non-resident hunters, and you can't blame this for that, but they're not here to fool around. They're here to kill a deer.
Sure.
And they are going to set. I mean, many of them sit there all day long for weeks on end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, they are dedicated. They're here to kill a good deer, and they're going to sit there, and their lethality is persistence. I mean,
I could see where the state though would look at numbers and be like, we don't see that there's a problem. And just looking at it, I mean, the total number of kills this year was 201,000 with archery and 259,000 with a firearm. Muzzleloaders accounted for 27,000. If you go back to 2012, you're looking at 191,000 for archery, 337,000 for firearm, and 35,000 for muzzleloader. So the total number was 580K in 2012, 507,000 in 2020.
is that killed?
Yeah. No, that's permits. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep, that's
I was gonna say,
permits.
because they
Is
don't
it-
check.
yeah,
They don't
right.
when they run the numbers every year after
It's
season.
never anywhere that
yeah, it's like
high.
100.
Yeah,
and
that's
something
per-
thousand
140,000 maybe, I think, were killed
altogether.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's permits issued, but even based on that,
But that does show you that the archery permits went way up,
the archery permits went up,
which takes in
but
the
overall
crossbow.
permits went down.
Well, I think a lot of people, I mean, a person can only use so much deer meat. And that's another issue with the does is if you think the does are out of control, a person, if they kill two-year-old deer, that's 150 to 200 pounds of deer meat.
Yeah.
I mean, most families, I mean, I was an exception. We were eating deer meat after deer meat after deer meat when I was a kid. You know, I had to explain to people at graduate school what I was doing with the squirrels and that I'd shoot, and I said I'd eat them. You know, and they'd look at me from different countries. And but anyway, like I was raised on wild game. It's something that I've ate forever. But everyone can't use 150 pounds, 200 pounds of deer meat. When you can do it with 2 nice bucks, you know, people aren't going to help you with the does if that's the feeling that people need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You've got to, if you really actually have, I mean, you know, there's some problems that I have that I don't think should be happening. I don't think farmers should complain if they're also getting lease money.
Yeah.
Or landowners. Let's not even say farmers, but if you're getting lease money, or if you're posting your ground, I mean, let's be real. If I have a deer herd problem, I could put an ad in the newspaper and get me a lawyer and put me get me a thing where hunters could sign that doesn't hold me responsible for accidents on my property. I could get rid of my doe problem pretty quick. I don't need sharpshooters and nuisance tags and all that. Like you could get rid of the problem.
That's interesting.
You think?
Yeah.
What do you think? Can you get rid of the problem?
And we're not against anybody here as we begin to tell these stories tonight, but my dad was sitting at the coffee shop with I don't even know the people, and I don't know if he knew him. He may be, we would never say names anyway, but anyway, he's sitting at the coffee shop, and there was a particular, I guess, maybe farmer complaining about crop damage from the deer. And my dad let him kind of talk for a little bit. And then my dad just spoke up and said, well, it's your fault.
But I love that.
And he goes, well, how is it my fault? He goes, well, don't, he knew, apparently he did know the farmer, I guess, by this statement. He's like, well, don't you lease all that ground now out to hunters?
Right.
He's like, well, yeah. He's like, well, used to, what do you lease it out to, like 3 guys or 4 guys? Yeah, I think there's 4 guys, or something to that nature. And he's like, so those 4 guys come probably from out of state. Yeah, they can come from out of state. And he's so potentially they could care less probably about a doe, because why would you kill a doe? I mean, I'm sure they kill some, but their focus is not on a doe, because it's like you got to mess with the meat, get it back home if you're coming from Arkansas or wherever you're coming from, Michigan. They're here, like you said. Their mission is to kill mature Illinois Brutus.
Right.
Big heavy horn chocolate rack buck. And he said, so at the most, there's a good chance they're just, and if they don't, statistically, they're not always going to all get a buck. So say 3 of them kill a decent buck. So there's 3 deer gone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they kill 2 does. So you've got 5 deer killed off that 800 acres or 605, whatever it is. And he said, now used to, I'd go down there and kill a couple does, might get me a buck. My boy'd kill 1 or 2. The neighbors on the other side killed 2 or 3 does off of it. Neighbors down on that corner killed 2 or 3 does and a buck off of it. And we were killing 20 to 30, 15 deer out of that area. And the biggest number of them were probably does.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, so basically by you leasing it,
there's been a change in the hunter for sure in regards to the makeup of what the hunter looks like, I feel like.
so it's all your fault.
Let me throw this out
Go
there.
ahead, throw it.
Kyle
See
Martin.
if Clint can catch it.
Kyle Martin posted, he'd also like to see some limits on outfitters. He also said, let me pull it up here, that crossbows are a problem. Probably should have some change as well. Maybe given its own season, similar to what Colorado does. Jay Wallace says that he feels that Amish shooting with crossbows for a family of 15, it could be a problem.
Heard that problem before.
Yeah. Jake Consolving says that I believe it's a numbers game with more boots on the ground, more people in the woods at varying times in close proximity in the last 20 years, thinking it's keeping the more mature, smarter bucks staying low key. So here's the thing. And the reason why I read all those at once is because of this. What you said earlier is so true, that you can get a group of guys in the same room and they're all going to have different opinions on what the problem is. And how do you fix something where everybody knows there's a problem, but nobody knows directly how to fix the problem?
This is going to be my next question. So is there really a problem?
Or
is
do
there
we,
really
or
a problem?
do we just
Or
like
we
being stirred?
Or do we just feel like, well, I haven't seen a booner for the last 2 years, so there's a problem out there.
I do feel like there's a problem.
I mean, I'm not saying there is or there isn't.
I mean, again, it depends on who you are. Like, if you're the guy that likes to kill Pope and young deer and see good deer, you can see a lot of good deer now.
There's dandies out there. There is dandies.
And there's nothing wrong. Like, I said I had 2 to over 150 on all my places together this year. I had a bunch more that I couldn't count over 140, though. Right. So
Todd Hewing would say there's a problem.
Is he on there saying there's a problem?
No, but he would say that there is a problem.
Todd will tell you how it is. And I agree with most of what Todd says. He is one of the people that were working with those organizations back in the day.
Sure.
He is the most passionate hunter I have ever seen. If you're friends with Todd, you'll know what I'm talking about right now. Great guy, do anything for you. I mean, my family was looking to buy a piece of property, and he came down here and looked it over for me and gave me auction advice and everything. Greatest guy, like one of those people.
Do I know Todd?
He used to be one of the owners of Biofarm.
Oh, yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, just a great guy, and he would definitely say there's a problem. But, he's a guy that has done more for wildlife than any 10 guys I know. Like, he buys places.
Most people in this state don't do what he's done.
He buys places, puts them into some kind of habitat, wetlands, swamps, this or that, and he makes places better for wildlife.
Sure.
And I know he's taken a passion for it, and he has, like I said, done a lot. And he would definitely say that there is a problem. Like, he is afraid to go into his woods without running deer out that's going to get shot with crossbows.
Yeah.
He also posted that 54% of the deer shot in archery season this year were shot with crossbows. He posted that today or yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. So my thing is, we can't live so much in fear that we don't hunt, though. I mean,
No.
You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
there
not
there
gonna do
has to be
that.
balance there.
You have to enjoy being outdoors. Like you can't just sit here and pout about, oh, poor me. I mean, you've got to like being out there and be like, this is fun. Like it's fun being out there. It's fun seeing deer. It's fun seeing those deer that you have to cover your eyes to, whether
Mhm.
you know,
I enjoy
that's
it.
fun. Like
yeah.
I
Well-
have killed my share. I don't care to pull my bow back again. That's the honest truth.
And I think if all the time all we preach is making sure that deer reach maturity and all this stuff, then we leave something for the youth that could almost taint the way they see
Yeah,
it.
I don't
Right.
want that. I think this conversation is fun to have, but I don't want it to turn into, an 8th grader can't go out and shoot a 126-inch buck without getting scolded.
Right.
Yeah.
No. And the thing is, I mean,
Because I was that 8th grader.
there's parts of me that
I
wouldn't
went
want a
out
kid
Thanksgiving.
listening to this
Yeah,
kind of talk.
yeah.
you
I went
know?
out as
Yeah.
I
But
went
on the
out
other end of that,
and
I'm
shot a 120, and I was like,
right. That's how you should feel.
yeah,
You know, and there's all kinds of stages to this. Like I
Yeah.
was shooting, I mean, I remember when I went to the 125 Pope and Young limit back in the mid 90s or late 90s. And then, you know, us as a group moved up to a 140 limit. And then we moved up to a 5-year-old limit. And I think now we're coming back down to a big 3-year-old limit because that's all we got to shoot at.
yeah.
But you know, you can't blame anyone for the
No.
decisions that they make. They have every right to have a good time out there that I do. So you can't blame them for the decisions that they make shooting. And again, it's not going to do any good whatsoever trying to point fingers at people. I mean,
No, I agree.
you know, you didn't want fingers pointed at you for your 50-yard shots earlier, right?
How about this mad cow disease?
It was here and then it was gone again. Yeah, then it was back. Yeah, because I went out this year. I didn't kill a buck, and it was getting right there at the end. I got to shoot a couple of does off the ground. You know,
Mhm.
still hunting. I miss still hunting. I used to try to do it as a young person and would kill a few deer here and there. You know, just slipping through the woods, taking your time, look up and be like, oh, there's deer over there. Hold your ground. They sometimes come walking to you and you shoot them. I killed a couple of does that way this year, just slipping, looked up and I seen them moving on the snow. And I was like, I got to find a place to hide, got over against a tree and I got a couple of does killed that way. And I was like, man, that took me back to a place. I was like, that was so fun to hunt off the ground, to walk, not just hunker down and hold a spot, to sneak around and keep my eyes on the woods around me till I could spot them before they spotted me and take my position to get a shot.
Here's one thing I miss, and this is entirely off conversation to some level, but I miss the days when you could pretty much go anywhere.
I miss the days in September of putting a 12 gauge over my back, stomping through the woods and bringing home a few rabbits, a few squirrels, and 2 doves that I managed to get flying over. And you just take off because you got permission from 4 or 5 guys that direction. So you just take off.
We don't have that now.
Now I've got 2 young kids I'm raising. I mean, they don't get to have the fun that I had.
They don't.
You know,
Man, I could leave the house and walk a half a day in almost every direction when I was a kid and never had to worry about it. Just the farmers would wave when they drove past. And if you
Here's the deal.
if you had 3 squirrels tied to your belt, you know, they're like, by golly, you did pretty good, didn't you? You know, and now you get crucified because squirrel season's too close to deer season for you to be walking around out there.
I mean, even if you cross somebody that you were like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, and they caught you, they'd be like, hey, have you killed anything yet?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like it is now.
Ellsworth, your grandpa.
Yeah.
I also remember, do you remember back in those 90s in gun season where at 7:30 in the morning, opening day of gun season, you'd already had 3 conversations out of your deer stands?
Yeah.
Remember that? Some guy,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know him because I'd be out in Mount Erie or something. And
Yeah.
I'd sit there on the corner of a woods in a logging road and here'd come some guy, seeing anything? And then, you know, every 30 minutes it'd go. And then, you know, well, it ain't the best for your hunting. It wasn't that bad of a time either.
But people didn't try to kill each other.
Yeah, I wonder if we've just gotten too serious. If overall we've just gotten too serious about
I tell my church sometimes, I said, we need to get real serious about not being too serious.
Right.
You know,
It's a good thing to say to them.
I get real serious about not being
Right.
too awfully serious here. Some of it's like because you've had the opportunity, you've hunted hard, you've mastered some situations, you've learned movement of deer, you've kind of got into the psyche of a mature deer and got yourself in a place to take a mature deer, and maybe more than one. And I have too. I've got to kill several nice bucks, many good bucks, and you hit a place where it's like, I don't know, is it like you got to pull this measuring rod up and be like, am I just looking at this because I want the next 6-year-old?
Yeah.
And am I okay just to sit out there and hunt for a 5.5, 6-year-old and be fine with everybody else shooting 130s around me and not get upset because they shot my deer, you know?
What was it John Brown said today? The archery industry's made up of egomaniacs.
Egomaniacs, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
there's elements of that that's true.
There's some truth
And
in
we're
that.
killing a deer.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's just a wild animal walking around out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know where the ego comes in at from that. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
it's
you
a
couldn't-
real thing, though.
it is
It is a
definitely
real
it is a
thing.
real thing.
It's like, he's a great hunter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, is he?
I mean,
You know?
really, who cares?
Yeah,
He
who
may have just
cares?
fell into it or bought
Is he
his
a
way
great
into
person? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy can only get as good as what his situation is
That's
out
true.
there.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Like,
That's
you
what
can't
me and
beat
you
your,
were
you
talking
can't
about
beat
out
your
there.
situation.
Yeah.
Like, to sit there and discuss this stuff. I mean, you couldn't find really a deer on my page forever until I started a little bit outdoor riding. I mean, I'm so against the ego part of this that it's like, not, people shouldn't have an ego with hunting. It's between you and yourself and you getting better at shooting the deer. If you look at all the things that are caused in the hunting industry by ego and all the different, like, there was a deer poached last year. He's been convicted in everything, and it's viral everywhere last year.
Yeah.
Out in Ohio, it would have been one of the top couple of deer ever killed in Ohio, typical with a bow.
Yeah.
And they got into this guy's phones, and he's like, I'm finally going to be something now. And he's something, all right. I mean, he's,
He's
famous.
stained,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, what was he thinking?
I'm finally going to be somebody. He told me what he was thinking.
Yeah. Trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, an over poaching a deer, like, I'm going to go all out to cause this deer's death because I will be so cool then.
Yeah.
I mean, the fun part is
you think
just the
that-
quest.
Dude, he wrote it hard too, because once it happened, he was like on every
You're
podcast
right.
known to man.
Right. And I mean, the story he was telling, it went 7 miles and swam a lake within a couple of days of the other guys getting the trail cam picture of it. And,
Yeah.
right. Not impossible. I'm not going to tell that story, though, if it would have been me.
That was a poor choice.
Yeah. You chose poorly. I
Right.
remember that off of Indiana Jones.
How about this mad cow disease?
So the main thing is that to have more mature deer. That's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
To have more mature deer in our woods out there. And the biggest, what do you take from it? What would be your main two things? Because I guess to me, the state would have to make some decisions and some hunters would have to make some decisions. And if those two things really work together, there'd be a lot more for sure 5.5, 6-year-old bucks out there.
Here's what I've found. I've been raising little chicks at my house.
Chickens.
Yep. And I put eggs in the incubator, but if I don't put water in it, it's not good. I don't get the yield. If I towards the end, I forget to plug it in and the temperature gets out of whack, I don't get the yield. And I say all that because there's a lot of steps that can be negated or forgotten.
Right.
And I don't get the yield that I want to get.
Yeah.
And the same applies for the state. There's a lot of things that they can do, and each one of them is going to produce something. And I would really like to see them at least make an effort like they care.
I have wanted to see that for a long time, but really, like I said, it's data in. I mean, you've seen the data, you read the data, and it's do the same thing, sell tags that people that'll buy them.
Yeah. Here's my question though. Would tag sales go down by changing how they handle things? I'm not sure that it would.
Well, I mean, if you went to a $1 limit, you're telling non-residents that they can't spend $1,000 here; they can only spend 600, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I guess, I didn't know this till recently. Non-residents can kill $2.
Right. I think it's one with each weapon, though, right?
it is one with each weapon. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
the way. Yeah,
Oh, so they can't kill 2 with the bow?
no,
or
they can't come and
crossbow.
kill two with the bow.
They can shoot their one with the bow or a crossbow.
That's my understanding.
And then they can stay for gun season and get them another buck.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. See, that's what you're
See,
fighting.
well, then I should be able to kill 2 with a bow and 2 with a gun. With that logic,
How so?
because I'm a resident and I can kill 2 with a bow.
Oh, I
They
got
should
what you're
let me
saying.
turn around and kill 2 with a gun. I don't want that to happen. Don't misunderstand me.
Please
but,
don't.
But I'm just
Let's
saying.
not get
I'm
that
just saying
started.
that logic. Maybe they should just limit them to 1. They either get 1 with a gun or 1 with a bow.
Well, I am for limits on it, but again,
There's a reason, like with rabbits, they turned the limit back. They did do that years ago, didn't they? Didn't they turn it back from 5 to 4?
yeah, that was a big one there. I think I jumped one rabbit shed hunt. I found 45 sheds, seen one rabbit.
Yeah, I mean,
I seen more woodcocks.
I pray for rabbits.
Mhm.
Literally, when I see them and jump them, I was like, "You are a pilgrim in an unholy land, little feller."
Now at my house, I've got them
the
everywhere.
favor. Yeah, well, in town, but out in the wilderness, they're not there.
I mean, how often can you sit there and overlook a field out in the woods, or while you're sitting there overlooking say 100-acre field, and I see a chicken hawk just looking for a rabbit,
Yeah, licking his beak.
I don't look at the money that comes in from non-residents and think it matters to them that much. I mean, there's 55,000 non-residents that applied or that got tags this year.
55,000
Times 600. Is that what you said?
So you're looking
Well,
at
both
the
tags
tags is a little over 4, I think, maybe 4.25, and I don't know what their hunting license is.
And the gun's less, isn't it?
so
I have
you're
no
looking
idea.
at
I think
what?
gun tags are less.
You're looking
you
at a
only got
little
3
over
days.
$2 million coming into the state. I mean, what was the guy what was his name? Glenn something or other that said
Sanders?
yes.
Mhm.
And he said that right now the DNR has like $166 million that's unaccounted for.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, $2 million is dropping the bucket to them. Like,
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm just looking at the numbers and seeing what they spend versus what they're getting out of state hunters. I'm not sure that money is enough to determine what they're going to do. That's what I'm getting at. Like you're talking about, if you cut it down to 1
How many
tag,
non-residents were there again?
so there's 55,000 tags that were issued to non-residents.
Okay, is 2 million the right number there?
Punch it in real quick. So if you're talking $400,000 or $400, $450
times 55,000.
Yeah, I mean it would be over 2 million, but not massively.
22 million.
Right.
Oh,
You
well,
missed a zero.
I did. I dropped one.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Right here on your podcast.
That's all right.
It just got more significant.
Yeah.
Right. I think they would do it for 22. The state, now this is the state of Illinois you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know if they wouldn't do it for $22.
Yeah, because there's probably 20. My thoughts was that even if it was 2 million, there's probably 5 people sitting somewhere is like, oh, 100,000 for you.
I mean, and you've also got
100,000 for
hunting
you?
licenses.
100,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You've also got hunting license fees, and I don't know what a non-resident hunting license
Yeah, I don't
is,
know
but
that either, but it's higher than ours.
you know,
right?
and if you double that on that, you're talking about probably around $40 million that they would be getting on the ones that, assuming they're getting 2 tags. So, there's money there.
Yeah. All right. I'm intrigued by it. So
how many resident tags?
math ain't mathin', Justin. Thanks, man. Well, listen, here's my deal. I was doing it on the fly. So
Well,
how about that mad cow disease?
that 1-0 makes a big difference, though, doesn't it?
It does, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to go to the woods and see more big deer. But let me say this: I go to the woods and see some pretty good big deer.
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty good deer the last several years out there. I haven't seen. I don't know how many I've seen that I could say that was an old bruiser, 6-year-old buck. I don't know how many of those I've seen, but
How much? Let me throw this out there.
I've seen some deer. I've seen enough the last few years to know why people want to be here.
Right.
Do you think what crops are sprayed with? Do you think GMO stuff affects them?
I've heard the theory. I mean, you're asking for a leap that I can't make personally.
Yeah.
I mean, the turkey population has went down, and I wonder if something like that isn't them. I've also noticed that the turkey population tends to go down in my areas whenever CRP's taking out, because I don't know if it's nesting. I don't know if it's, but I don't know as far as the deer goes. I don't know if that would cause them to die at a younger age. All I know is they're dying at a younger age.
I mean, there's definitely some lawsuits happening about glyphosate,
right?
And deer come right out after it's been sprayed and eat on it. To me, it's got to have some sort of effect.
It could. I mean, I think about the EHD thing. Now, maybe it's just because I'm oblivious to it, but I don't remember nobody talking about EHD when I was a kid. Like, man, we found 5 big bucks in that creek.
Right.
We found 4 deer piled in our pond. I never remember that. And then all of a sudden,
it seems like there's some genetic things happening.
Where did it come? I mean, we say,
exposed.
well, it come from that midge fly. Yeah, but where'd he come from? And why is he carrying it? And how come I didn't? And maybe was it there and I just was too oblivious because I was young and didn't pay attention. And I didn't hear farmers talk about finding creeks slap full of deer, And
would people have been interested about why those deer were dead?
They
would
may
people
not
even
have.
talk
Maybe
about, I
it
just
was,
found a
and
bunch of
people
dead
could care
deer.
less,
Nowadays, I mean, when there's people like us are like, oh no, 5 dead deer, what's going on here? And back then, like, again, we were just sitting where 2 runs crossed waiting on a deer to come down eventually.
That's what I'm saying. It very well could be that.
I thought
it very well could be.
I mean,
that.
back in those days, I thought you just waited long enough. Eventually, some shine on you and big one came down there.
Yeah. That's basically been my whole hunting philosophy. I lived by a hunting tactic there for several years, and maybe still to some degree. I just called it the move over tactic because it just seemed like every year
someone would move in on you.
Yeah, or somebody would be like, "That's my spot," and I was like, "Oh well, that's fine if that's your spot, but it's been my spot too for quite a few years, and maybe I don't own it, so I can't tell you it's not your spot." And I just, instead of fighting, I was like, I just move over, find a different spot, and a lot of times it never failed. I go to a different spot, and I was like, there he is.
So that's the tactic I need to use to get your spot. Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
Is that the tactic I need to use to get your spot?
To get it?
Just go say, hey, that's my spot.
Yeah. Well, I've never been privileged enough to have the say so, I guess.
Right.
I've had permission, but I'm not going to stir the hornet's nest when someone shows up and starts throwing a fit, because I've heard too many stories of everybody go to the landowner and the landowner's like, I'm done with all of you. It's just peace out.
Right.
I was like, we've had some people.
Oh yeah.
And I've had some people, and you've had some people throw a horse fit. If anybody's ever seen horses, how they can throw fits when things go. I've had some people do that. And I was like, I'm just not into it. I'll just go over here. I'm going to hunt this patch over here now. And a lot of times when I went over there, I realized, well, there's a buck over here because I've hunted here so much and they've hunted here so much that we probably moved him over there, and I slip over and find him and end up maybe getting him. And I called it the move over hunting tactic.
The closest I've ever felt like my life was going to be taken was, because people moved in on you deer hunting, and then they, staked their claim. Yeah.
Get plumb upset.
Right.
I mean, I've seen people's nostrils flare and cuss and scream and spit, and I'm like, and then one of the most pleasant things I ever had happen, I was so pleasantly surprised. It's been years ago. I went to a spot that I hadn't hunted for quite some time, and I thought, I'm going to hunt that this evening after work. and I walked in there, apparently walked right underneath a guy, and he never whistled or nothing. Went on in with my climber, went up a tree, hunted, seen some deer, seen some does and whatnot. Nothing, didn't shoot nothing. Got down, and when I come out, I walked right underneath him again. He stayed because his wife was way on down the edge of the woods, so he just thought, well, I'll stay here in the dark till she gets here to get down. And he watched me walk underneath him. So I stepped out of the woods and looked down the edge of the woods, and I seen somebody come. I was like, oh, I wonder who that is. And in the twilight dark, I could tell someone was coming. First, I thought, it's a deer come down the edge of the field, but I realized it's a person. I let him get to me. When I got real close, I realized that's a female. I could see that it was a lady. I was like, oh, hey. I was like, she goes, oh my gosh. She thought I was her husband standing there, and she realized I wasn't. Well, about that time I hear something, I turn around, and just right here, he's come down the tree. And I thought to myself, this is getting ready to get, just from my experience with stuff like that, I was like, this is probably going to get hairy. And I had permission to be there, knew the owners of that ground. And that guy got down, and I was kind of talking to her, and she's like, man, you scared me. She said, when I heard your voice and realized it wasn't my husband's voice, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then he's coming down, and she goes, oh, is that true? Yeah. I was like, man, I was talking to her while he's getting down. I was like, I walked right underneath him and did not know he was there. He should have called me off. We used to do the, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll go this way. He didn't do that. He let me go in. So he comes walking out there. He's like, hey, man, how's it going? And automatically, I was like, that's a different approach than I thought I was going to get to this conversation. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't realize. I don't remember where they were parked, how they got in there. I was like, I didn't realize, someone was sitting right here. I said, I hadn't been here, all season. Just after work, thought I'd on a whim hunt it for an evening.
Half the county get the rest of it, because everybody owns 5 acres, and I'm standing there looking at it. I mean, I'll call this guy, and he'd be like, oh, sure, I've got a big lawnmower you can use. I mean, I called all the way down through there. I covered all the way between there and the city park, and not a person said anything negative about, oh no, you can't come through my yard after a deer. I mean, there was 20 super nice people that I dealt with on that. And
they're there.
Lots.
I guess I tell that story to inspire everybody to handle it that way, to the best of your ability, just to handle it like that. And the hunting woods would be a better place for it.
Yeah. Hunters are great people.
They are.
Overall, hunters are great people.
Yeah. Until they're not.
Yeah. Well, there's a few out there that
always
probably give
but that's in every avenue of life.
Yeah.
Whether it's sports or work or whatever you're doing, there's somebody that wants to be a stinker. Just try not to be.
Clint, if you were going to shut this thing down and you were going to say, here's how I would fix it, how would that be?
I asked you that earlier, and I don't know if you just drove it home.
Yeah, drive it home.
Drive it home.
I don't know. I mean, I think the 1 buck limit is really the only choice that we have at this point. I find the odds of it actually happening, like in realistic world, 10 to 20% maybe. I think the state is just fine with what they have.
So you think it's going to be business as usual from here on out?
I mean, they haven't done anything in 27 years. I don't see anything that's going to make me think they were. And I will say, and I do want to preface this to give people some hope instead of the gloom. Like, I thought it would happen earlier, and I was wrong. I didn't think it would come back as well as it did since EHD.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've killed more deer that gross over 170 with a bow since EHD. I mean, I killed my 200, I think, the same year you killed this guy in 14.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it came back well. It can do it again. I mean, there could be other factors involved. There could be, and then something that I noticed back in the day, if shotgun season hits 7 good days, you know,
Yeah.
if you get a bunch of rain on the Saturday and the
That's
Sunday
true.
of first season, you'll have a
there's
better
tons of
herd next year.
Yeah, tons of numbers there that could change.
Right. Tons of kill numbers and stuff that can change. And maybe your gun seasons have hit. I mean, I spend time dominating the Wayne City Christmas light contest over there during that back to back, challenging Tom Brady. And let me tell you, while I was putting up my Christmas lights this year, I had one of the top 5 biggest bucks I had. He probably was over 150, running back and forth on the triangle in front of my house during that. So,
awesome.
I mean, you know, the $1 limit is there to fix. I think you're going to see some changes.
I seen your little deer hunter in the tree there hunting.
Did you like him?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, he might have been what won it for me. I don't know.
Oh,
I
man.
seen that.
But you're
hunting Santa's reindeer, wasn't he?
right. He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
after
yeah.
him, right?
Yeah,
He had his little bow up there, and I think he had his own deer stand.
yeah, looked good. Old school.
I think we're going to see season limits in archery season. I think that is one because they can charge you the same amount and do the same thing. I think you could see something like the season ending in December.
Are they planning on extending the season?
Extending it for what?
That's one of the things that
You just said you think we'll see season limits
An
on
archery season. I think you'll see archery season because of the crossbow impact. I think that they will try to reduce that effect on it and possibly make it something like doe only after archery season, completely doe only for the rest of it after like December 15th. I think you could see something like that.
That would break my heart. That would.
I think that I think when we get punished,
Yeah.
we are most likely to all get punished together because we were all bad kids.
I'd say you're right. That's just the way it works.
Man.
You know, I don't think shotgun season is ever going to see a change. It is too much of a tradition, and nor should it.
Right.
You know, I think.
See, I think it should. I think it should be pushed to where it's not dead on the rut.
Try to take it from them.
I know.
I mean, an Iowa, that is one of the. I mean,
Man, wouldn't that be happy as a bow hunters be like,
I mean,
well, it's getting as good as it's got on Thursday. And we can go ahead and hunt Friday because gun season's got moved to December 15th.
Right. In Iowa, that's one of their big things. I mean, not letting the advanced weapons out there during the rut. And that's one of their big things. But that
could be.
Look at
I can see where that could be huge.
Yeah.
But look at it from their point of view.
For big deer to
You've got a guy here that's got 20 deer on the wall. My basement's full. My wife won't let me bring any more over. I've got 6 drop tines. I've got a cactus buck. I've got a 200. My friends all have the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there telling them I don't want the gun hunters hunting in November. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the thing. What you said about advanced weapons is true. Like there's something that happens whenever they go out there, it totally disrupts the herd. And to me, there's the fact that does that during the rut is not a positive either.
Well, during the gun season, right? That's when my deer I shouldn't say my deer. That's where the deer on my property used to vanish the most. Like, oh, that nice 8-pointer's gone, but the 10-pointer, the 2 stickers is still here. You know, you wouldn't get his picture, and then every now and then they'd come back because they're just kind of on I'm a big 3-year-old, I'm going to take off cross country thing, and then they'll be back. But a lot of times that's when they would vanish, never to be seen again. It was gun season. Now it might be October 15th, vanish, never to be seen again. It may be anytime.
You're saying that vanishing window has gotten a lot bigger.
A lot bigger.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
On average, it used to be like after gun season, I do an assessment and I realize this one's never been seen again. And now it's like from October 1st to the end.
I was lucky and met Don Higgins when I was in my late teens, and we're still good friends. And he told me at one time, when a 4-year-old buck, when a buck gets to be 4, it can take care of itself. I'm not sure that statement's true anymore.
Well, explain that.
Explain that. I don't
He can
think.
keep himself alive
I mean, you got
for
to
the most part.
right. I
You're,
mean,
you're saying he is incognito enough that
well, I mean, it's not incognito. I mean, you're dealing with an animal with a super weapon. Like it should be one of the Marvel superheroes. Like we've got 5 million olfactory sensors in our nose. A bloodhound has 300 million olfactory sensors in its nose. And it can track, like, if someone tried to kidnap me leaving the building today, it can tell you which direction they went.
Could
like
follow
a
you.
week later.
Yeah, for
So
16,
so
18
what would-
hours easy.
what would a superhero name be?
I don't know what a super.
The smeller.
But they have close to 400 million. Like they can tell if you
So
left the
they're,
onions out of the chili at home.
So they're 1 million up on a bloodhound.
Right. So you're dealing with
Wow.
something like that, and we're getting closer to just beating that with the technology.
You think so?
I
You think
so.
we beat their nose some?
That's really about all they've got, right? And a little bit of like, I'm absolutely terrified of people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I think I think you're right. I've always said I'm not putting them on a humanistic playing field. They're not.
Yeah, they don't have a mind like
They
we
don't
have.
have the mind that we have, obviously, or they'd be driving cars.
They
And
can't
talking.
add-
They'd be having a podcast tonight.
They can't multiply as well as Wes.
Yeah.
Close.
Close.
But no, I mean,
but yes, they're like mature deer have zero tolerance for
it's kind of like
anything that goes south on them. If they smell something, they're done.
Right. It's kind of like if you find a ghost in your house, right? Like you're not going to maybe I'm going to think I'm crazy if I tell my wife about this, but if she sees it, you're probably selling the house, you know. After a couple of times you see this thing. That's the same way they smell about your scent. And it is very difficult to get in there on a deer and the deer not know you're there.
Yeah.
Like they can smell so well. Like I don't know how many times since I ghillie hunt where I've came back a couple of days later and right in my print where I was sitting, where I've matted down the soft dirt, right there's a big deer print. Right there, you can tell his nose is probably right there.
Yeah. He's checking where you was.
Right. And
in the dark when he's like, I'm safe to check this.
Yes, like they're following you back. I don't know how many times I've had evidence of deer following people back to see what they were doing. And they are the last thing a mature buck wants to do is run into a human. It is the last thing. Like I have seen I have watched 6 to 10 Hope and Young bucks early season in a field in which hilled up in the middle where nothing can see them from a blacktop road. During the early season, none of those deer went over that hilltop. Does that make sense? Where they could be seen from the road?
Sure.
And they're all back there behind that hill. One of my favorite spots to find mature bucks in the summertime is what I call an interior field that's completely surrounded by trees. And if people think, well, that's because it can't be seen, I think it doesn't want to see them either.
Yeah. Likes to be left to solitude.
It likes to think that you're not there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like PTSD, I guess, for people.
Yeah. Well,
that's interesting.
I think you're right on that. I do.
And then think about what.
But don't think, back to your statement though, you don't think that a 4-year-old can take care of himself anymore.
Not to the level that it used to be. How is that nose supposed to defend itself from a 200-yard gun?
But yeah, exactly. It can't do that.
And
not efficiently like it can with the 30-yard bow.
That's a very valid argument.
One of the most lethal hunting techniques that you'll hear a lot of hunters talking about is you want the wind to be just right to be wrong.
Yeah.
So if the wind is blowing in the woods right here and you've got it completely wrong, but that deer comes out at 60 yards down here where now you're just right to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? And now because you've got a crossbow, you can make that shot.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you've got the just right to be wrong, and now it's coming out just right to be wrong for you.
Yeah.
And you will hear people, and I think that is a true statement. You want the wind just right to be wrong to kill mature deer early. Now, my whole hunting philosophy during the rut is totally opposite of that. But
I've noticed when I killed good deer that I have noticed, I take note in my mind that the wind was so close the way he was coming.
Yeah.
But it was just good enough that he couldn't he couldn't get me, or I was using a river bend
Mm-hmm.
or something to that nature where
That's the thing. If you can use natural
You know,
things
I
to
was
keep
like,
them
the
from
wind-
catching you.
the wind is actually blowing to him, but because of the way the river works, he can't technically get downwind of me unless I get some weird swirl or something, obviously, and he gets me. But I've killed a few that I was like, he all but came from downwind of me. But
I remember Lathan made a comment. You were starting to say how so during the rut, and,
Yeah.
staying away from the deer. Well, what most mature bucks do, I'm talking about the king buck, right? Like whoever the boss is, or whatever. Let me use an example of a 7.5-year-old, 280-pound buck I shot at 6 yards from the ground a few years ago. That deer done what he wanted to do. He was 280 pounds. He dealt with whatever he wanted. He wasn't a 3-year-old that had to worry about where he stepped, right?
Right.
He knew that anything that came to that property was going to run from him. So he was free to walk downwind of doe beddings, to walk downwind of does and check does. Like, I mean, I'm going to make a statement here, but I think a mature buck during the rut will go without food if you've got a bunch of does, which you're not going to have those two situations together. But I think he finds does more important. And he will walk the downwind side of does all the time on a regular basis. The first thing he will do, instead of going to food, is he will walk the downwind side of where most of your does have been bedding, and then he will go to food to hang out with them. And by the time he gets to food is what kind of demeanor you're going to see him come out with, right?
Mhm.
Like, is he going to come out hopping and running and, like he's mad because he's smelled that there's been another buck in there messing around? Or is he smelled, is he going to be going straight for a doe because he has smelled that one of these does is in heat,
Right.
with this, Marvel superpower we talked about just a
Gotcha.
minute ago.
Yeah.
So, and that's how they find their information. If, one thing I like to tell people, it's not like, what was it, Doubting Thomas said, I want to see the wound and I want to touch it. Oh no, he wants to take me there and let me smell some stuff. That's what a deer would have said, a mature buck, right?
Right.
Because that's where they get their information.
Mm-hmm.
Hunting in on the ground with a ghillie suit, and you've probably seen this because you do some ground hunting. A buck may come right at me and see that there is something there, and then within minutes, it is around downwind of me because it does not know what that thing is, but it knows that it knows how to find out.
It's going to figure you out. Yeah.
And that's how they find out. I don't see and does, again, bucks and does, two different animals in my opinion, but I've never had a doe do that. I've never had a doe try to circle downwind of me.
Yeah. Nothing. I mean, if they do, nothing to the magnitude that a buck does.
But that's because a buck
that's where grunting and rattling at a certain deer in a certain position is a no-no. Because if he does come, he's going downwind anyway.
That's how I killed that big one I mentioned earlier, is because I had a card checking camera on a video mode there. Anytime a buck came in there and hit a scrape all night long, he would be there within a few minutes. It looked like a Clydesdale coming out of the middle of the field to scare everything.
Right.
He'd be doing that thing where they got both back legs together, peeing on both back legs, looked like he was bellowing like an elk.
Right.
And I got out there, seen a Clydesdale out there in the field, and I thought, that's a pretty good sign. Waited for the time to hit first legal light. As soon as it hit, grunted at him 3 times. Here he came. He's gonna whip me good.
Yeah.
I'm about to pee down both my legs.
too much coffee.
We might need to wrap it up. So,
well, I don't know. Did we accomplish anything?
Here's the thing. Ultimately, there's not anything to accomplish because the state has got to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
But all that being said, it's good to talk about the things that we feel like would make it better. And hopefully someone that's up in the middle of the state can hear this and at least ponder it. So I think there's a lot of good people that are I think there's a lot of good people throughout the state, but I also think that there's people that don't necessarily know what we do or what this is about. And sometimes those are the ones that are making the decisions. So
we wrap it up with this: $1.
I mean, that's my wish list.
$1 and limitations to crossbows and guns.
I would say more restrictive non-resident limit too. That's another thing Iowa has as well. I have heard in Iowa it's 6 years now.
To get a tag. Yeah.
So
it's a lot of work
on a 5 to 6 year swing.
Well, and we don't even have to go that far, but it just can't be like
willy-nilly.
all you want, come back every year. I mean, it's gonna cause some outfitters some problems because they're not going to be able to just use their Rolodex for their client list. But
Right.
Well,
It'd free up
it
ground.
might
though,
not.
wouldn't it?
It might not cause outfitters problems because that's one of the ways that a lot of times you can get around those is by going through an outfitter.
all right.
Yeah,
Give
Like-
some outfitters some guaranteed tags so he can get what he wants.
sure.
Right. I could see that. Well, not give. I mean, you'd still have to pay, and then
Yeah.
you'd pass the fee on. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But which
I like
outfitter?
it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody watching this evening. We hope that you guys have enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. We appreciate that Clint came on this evening and shared his thoughts on things. And hopefully all of you guys are a little bit smarter than you were when you tuned in. Anything else we need to say? Come check us out this weekend for the ASA shoot. We're going to be here and we're going to be rocking it. Also, we've got a sale here at Ultra Products this week, and it's only this week. We're calling it the tax-free sale. Essentially, what we're doing is we're covering your tax. Taxation is theft, and so there you go. We're going to take care of it for you. Get in here, buy a bow. So, all right, we appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, comment. We appreciate it. Have a good evening, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.